well, DPM is the final step in the process if there is a skip in progression, correct?
Correct.
What happens if DPM does not approve the skip in progression? Can you just sort of explain that process a little bit? Well, let me ask you first, has it ever happened?
It's happened a few times.
Okay, what is the process?
So we've made a request and he may not have agreed with how many skips in progression that we've done. So he has basically said, I'm giving you approval to do what you are requesting to do. I mean, he still has done that.
Okay.
He just might not completely 100% agree with it.
Okay. And do you track the number of cases that DOC has sent to DPM for skip and progression approval?
Yes, I do.
How many of those resulted in separation from the department?
Of the 452 cases that we've sent between August and mid-April of this year, there was about 244 cases, I believe. So about 54% resulted in a skip to termination.
Okay, well, okay. So how many did not result in separation from the department?
The rest of them, which was about 208, so about 46%.
So while certainly not 50-50, it's close to a 50-50 split?
Correct.
Okay. So sending skip to progression at DPM does not automatically it doesn't mean you're going to be terminated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But obviously, well, let me ask you, that didn't happen in Ms. Novak's case?
We never got close to that step of the process.
Okay. Judge, that's all I have.
All right.
Are we good to go right away, or do you need a break, Mr. Cross?
Let's go.
Okay. And you're fine, Ms. Brown?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, then let's go Cross with Ms. Brown with Mr. Cross. Go ahead.
All right. You ready, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Do you want me to keep sharing? 1 second. Do you want me to keep sharing?
No, I'd rather see the witness. So did I understand you say that the DPM has never 100% disagreed with the department's decisions?
They've not 100% agreed with the department's decisions.
Okay, but so that means that there's they've never actually prevented the department from doing whatever the department wanted to do, right?
In those very limited cases, correct.
Okay. And those are the limited cases where they actually disagree in some percentage less than 100%, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you took part in the IRT meeting, right?
Yes.
Who else was there?
I believe it was the administrator, Makda Fassahaye. Well, she had to have been there. And then I'm not completely sure if the HR supervisor for DAI was there or if Christy Preston, the internal affairs director, was there.
Oh, it would have been either Christy Preston or the other person?
Correct.
So total of 3.
There could have been a total of 4. There could have been all 4 of them. It would have been Makda and I for sure. It was 3 years ago. I don't remember for sure if the other 2 were actually there or not.
Okay. And how do you remember if it's a unanimous decision at that meeting?
Well, I agreed for sure to move forward, and I am not the appointing authority, so I can't move something along. That had to have come from Makda Fassahaye.
So it was Makda's decision, right?
Well, it's a team decision, and if we didn't all agree, it wouldn't have moved forward.
Okay. So how does that part of your answer fit in with the first part of your answer? Can you explain that?
I don't understand what your question is.
Well, you said that Makda is the appointing authority and that you couldn't have because you're not the appointing authority, right? Did I misunderstand that?
Nope, that's what I said.
Okay. And then going on from there, you said it was a team decision. So if you couldn't have done it because you're not the appointing authority, can you explain how it was a team decision, please?
I myself am not an appointing authority, so if I thought there were reasons to move forward to Predis and Makda disagreed with me, I can't push that forward.
Okay. So what could you do to impede the process?
What could I do to impede the process?
Right. Because you just described pushing forward, right? So I'm going to describe another action to you, which is to pull backwards. Okay. You with me so far?
I think so.
Okay. What can you do to pull back? Right. What can you do to prevent Makda from moving these rule violations forward?
There's not much I can do since I'm not an appointing authority.
Okay. So,
Can I ask just Mr. Cross? I just wanted to know. So if you had said no, but Ms. Fassahaye wanted to go, then would I maybe say all three of the team members said no, and Ms. Fassahaye wanted to say, yeah, we want to do it. Would it have moved forward?
Most likely, because we're still at the middle point of an investigation process. We're still kind of at the beginning. So this is not like the end all decision at this point either. There's many more conversations that need to be had with different people.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning of your testimony, and you were talking about serious acts of misconduct. Is that the right terminology there?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think there was something with a buddy or something like that. Did I understand that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that, or does that mean that a serious act of misconduct must have a parallel act of a work rule violation?
Yes, that is actually a better way to say it.
Okay. So, but it also means that it's an identification that a work rule violation is so serious that progression doesn't need to apply, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, what role does the IRT meeting have, if any, in reviewing whether or not something should go, a work rule violation is so serious that progression is not appropriate?
So it's most likely that serious act of misconduct has already been identified by the investigators. So at the IRT, we discuss whether it's appropriate to leave it on there or remove it.
Okay, great. So then how would you, what are your criteria to determine whether to remove it?
Okay, that's a very general question. And it's kind of hard to answer because I don't have a specific case with specific facts in front of me. So it really is
Well,
going to
you do actually, right? Because you're in this hearing for Novak, right?
Okay,
So that's
well,
a
if we're
specific
speaking
case,
of
right?
her stuff specifically,
Sure.
and I'm sorry, can you repeat the
And
question?
I'm sorry, because you were at this meeting, right?
Yes.
The specific meeting. So let's talk about this specific meeting then, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so what would have been some criteria to take off, to remove the serious acts of misconduct from this allegation?
I don't know if I'm able to answer that because this meeting was 3 years ago. I don't have the documents in front of me either. And I can't remember the discussion. Again, this was so long ago. We don't take notes through it. We don't record it. I don't know how to answer that question.
So you can't give me specific or general criteria for how you would remove or alter the investigator's decision that a work rule violation was serious. Is that right?
At this point, unless we determined that what they said, we didn't really feel like it rose to a serious act, we would have moved it. But again, without looking at everything specifically again.
Well, so how do you, that's what we're asking, is how do you determine that you feel that it's not a serious work rule violation?
So another thing also, just because it's listed on that summary page and we moved forward with a Predis meeting with that serious act, once that Predis meeting is done and the DART team meets, we may the discussion there may be, okay, there was mitigation provided that we don't feel it's a serious act anymore, so we don't include it in the final disposition for discipline. So
great. When I'm asking about that, maybe you can answer about that. But until then, if we can just focus on the IRT meeting that you were a part of or generally know about, okay?
mm-hmm.
How long have you been an HR employee at the working for the state of Wisconsin?
I've been in HR technically since 2004.
Okay, and you've been received any training?
Any HR training?
Yes.
Through the department, yes.
Okay, and did you go to schooling for HR?
No.
No. Okay, but so you've got how many years of experience then?
In HR altogether, again, since 2004, and I've been in employment relations since May of 2012.
Okay, so this, whether or not a act is of serious misconduct and no progression should apply at the IRT stage, is that are there no criteria that are used to determine that, or what?
There's no specific written down criteria.
Okay, so is it a gut feeling or something else?
Again, we're looking at the facts of the case and the discussion on whether we feel it is a serious act or not. So I don't know how else to answer that question.
Because it's whatever the appointing authority says it is, right?
Not necessarily. As far as ER goes, we are part of this discussion because we are the ones that read all the investigation packets for the Department of Corrections, and we are looking at behaviors and trying to make sure that we remain consistent on how we apply the work rules and the serious acts of misconduct.
Okay, but you
So I guess,
can't.
sorry.
Can you give me an example here today of a time when you overruled the decision of a appointing authority that a work rule violation was serious enough to skip progression?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Can you give me an example of a time when you said, did you right now how you have this input with the appointing authority, right?
Okay.
Right. So can you give me an example of when that time that input would have been effective and they kept the authority doing whatever the appointing authority wanted to do?
I'm sorry, Mr. Cross, you were cutting out, so I missed half your question on when you clarified it for me.
Sure. I just want an example of when you've overruled the appointing authority on the grounds that you're explaining here. Can you
So
provide that?
I can't, again, I'm not an appointing authority. I don't supervise the appointing authorities. I can give my recommendation and my concerns of whether we add a serious act of misconduct or why we should remove it. But again, that's my role, is to make sure that we're consistent with how we've applied the same situations in previous
Okay.
cases.
And how long did you work with Makda Fassahaye?
With Makda,
Yeah.
however long, I hired her as an ER specialist when she first came to the state. So she worked for me for a while, and then I worked with her until she left the DOC.
Great. Based on that knowledge and experience, do you believe that she had an understanding of what serious acts or criteria on which to base serious acts of misconduct?
Yes.
Okay, what were those criteria?
I don't have the criteria.
Oh, okay. So going to these policies that we've spent some time talking about, if the secretary wants to do something that's not on that policy, or let's put it another way, if the policy and the secretary conflict, who wins in your experience?
The policy.
Okay. So Secretary Carr, for example, can't have say that they want to have somebody terminated and they're terminated?
No, we need to get approval from, as the policy states, from the DPM labor relations chief.
Okay, and this is the one that's never 100% disagreed with the secretary?
You mean
Object
100%
to the
agree?
form of the question.
Okay, and this person's a bureau director, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so other than this DPM bureau director, the secretary can do whatever they want?
And object to the form of the question. It also misstates the evidence.
Well, how about terminate? Other than this bureau director, the secretary can terminate whoever they want?
Not without his approval.
Okay. Judge, if we can go to page 190, I assume it's 12, but I didn't write the exhibit number down.
All right, we're on Respondents Exhibit 12, and you wanted page 190, which is in 12. All right, we're in Response Exhibit 12, page 190.
Right.
Go ahead.
And you said you drafted this document, right?
Correct.
Do you see in the top corner there, it says case number?
Yes.
What is that case number?
This says 1.
Okay, what does that indicate to you?
That there is a misprint because it should have a lot more numbers than that.
Okay. Now, can we scroll down a little more, please? And you completed this as well?
No.
But you did, then let's put it another way. You did complete the whatever document has the work rule violations and the serious acts of misconduct.
No.
No. Okay. Do you know which document I'm talking about?
Yes, it was the I believe it's the E form, so it's a couple pages above this one.
I appreciate that. Do you know who drafted the E form?
It would have been the internal affairs investigators. I'm not totally sure who was actually assigned to this case.
Okay. But it was Christy Preston's office, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And were you in contact with Christy's office during Ms. Preston's office during this investigation?
No.
Okay. Then the termination letters for Mr. Gusky and Mr. Weber. When you say you drafted them, what does that mean?
So once the determination was, or once the request for termination was approved, I was the one that assisted with drafting those letters.
Okay, and who requested that termination?
I requested it through the DPM Labor Relations Chief.
Okay, and then whose decision was it to terminate Mr. Gusky?
Well, ultimately, it was a recommendation through the Department of Corrections, and the Labor Relations Chief agreed.
Let me ask this question another way. I appreciate that. Who is the highest ranking employee, or let's say person, at the Department of Corrections who participated in the decision to terminate Mr. Gusky?
I believe it was Secretary Carr. I was not part of that discussion, so I can't 100% say it was him.
And how about Mr. Weber?
Same answer, Secretary Carr.
Okay. And then those letters that you drafted, how did you know what to put in those letters?
I had a copy of their investigation packet and used the information based off of that.
Okay. Did anybody approve the letter after you wrote it?
I had our Office of Legal Counsel take a review of it as well.
Okay. Did you discuss that with the Secretary's office at any time?
No.
Okay. Now, just you've got knowledge of the sexual discrimination reporting requirements?
No.
Okay, you don't know what the department's policies are for sexual discrimination reporting?
No, because that's not my area. I don't handle any of the discrimination complaints or anything like that.
Okay, so you still don't, even based on that fact, you still don't know what the policy is that right?
Not offhand, no.
Okay, so if somebody complained about you, if it's a sex discrimination to you, you wouldn't know what to do?
We have a harassment and discrimination policy, so I would pull up the policy and review it to determine what I needed to do.
Okay. And at any time did you learn that Sue Novak had complained about sex discrimination?
Not until this case was filed.
Okay. And you read her pre-disciplinary statement, is that right?
I did not read it verbatim. I will be honest. I probably skimmed it and just to see what she had to say, and that was it.
Okay, and when you saw what she had to say, did you see that she alleged that she was discriminated against on the basis of her sex or something else?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you take any steps? Do you recall taking any steps to investigate any claims of sex discrimination by Sue Novak?
No, because I don't have the authority to start an investigation on that either.
Okay, and do you recall reporting any claims of sex discrimination by Sue Novak to anybody else?
No.
Okay. Who's the highest ranking Department of Corrections employee that you know who participated in the work rule violations allegations against Sue Novak?
Makda Fassahaye, the administrator for DAI.
Okay. Thank you. I have no more questions.
All right, 1 second. Did you need to talk to Ms. Brown again?
I just have a handful of questions, Judge.
Do I need to keep sharing?
No, I don't think you do.
All right, 1 second. All right, we're on redirect then with Ms. Brown. Continue then, Mr. Quellenbach.
Ms. Brown, do you recall opposing counsel's request that you provide him with specific criteria to remove serious acts of misconduct during the IRT?
Yes,
And is that decision case specific?
correct. Yes, it would be case specific.
And has Administrator Fassahaye ever moved a case from IRT to a pre-disciplinary meeting where you disagreed with that decision?
No,
And did you remove work rules or serious acts of misconduct in Ms. Novak's case?
no.
Why not?
We all agreed that they were appropriate to move forward.
That's all I have, Judge.
All right, anything on that, Mr. Brown, Mr. Cross?
No, thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Brown. We appreciate your time.
Great.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. All right, so your next witness then, Mr. Mullenbach is who? You're muted, so we're not hearing you.
I apologize. Joe Sonnenberg, Judge.
All right, so 10-minute break, and then we come back with Mr. Sonnenberg. So it's 10:08, 10:20, and he'll be available. Is that good?
That should work for us, Judge.
And Mr. Cross?
Yep, thank you. Say that number again, please.
10:20.
10:20. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stop yourself and stop the video.